Hey kids, this is Miss Charla, and I am videoing our first Bullying in the Bible lesson from my home. I've got my dog Max here. See Max? He's playing with a ball, so if you hear something weird, it's probably him. But we need to go ahead and get started. Okay. Our first lesson is going to come from Genesis chapter 37. Let me throw Max the ball. And it's about Joseph and his brothers. First, though, we need to define what bullying is. A negative verbal or physical behavior that's done directly to a person or their property with the intention of either upsetting that person or manipulating that person's behavior, or damaging and destroying their property. It is a behavior which God would not approve of. It's a malicious act of meanness with intended ill will towards another person. Bullying can often start at home with older sisters and brothers picking on one another. Today's world sees a lot of divorce and remarriage, or even just parents living together. We also see multiple families living in the same house, and households with a mixed variety of immediate and extended family members with various ages. This often includes younger grandchildren living with grandparents, mothers and cousins, aunts and uncles, all sharing living space under the same roof. It can get pretty complicated. Here's something that you may not know. Bullies usually don't view their behavior as bullying. Let me tell you a Bible story about Joseph and his siblings. With the early descendants of Father Abraham that we're looking at today, blended family confusion was due to one man having several wives. Don't think that these half-sibs couldn't be just as jealous and inspired to bully as some of today's kids. In fact, the older brothers of Joseph get the Bad Guy Bullying Award of history. Often, in families and in society like Joseph's siblings, they think they're evening the score or taking power back that's rightfully theirs. Joseph's older brothers, just like bullies today, may be able to see and even admit to some bad behavior on their own parts. But if jealousy is at the root, bullying will feel strangely like justice. This is a very deceiving feeling that we can learn to recognize and not give into. Let's look at Joseph's story and then see if we can pick out some of our own behaviors that came to the surface with this story. Genesis chapter 37. Joseph was a young man, 17 years old. He and his half-brothers cared for his father's flocks. Joseph gave his father bad reports about his brothers. Since Joseph was born when his father Jacob was old, Jacob loved him more than his other sons. He made Joseph a special robe with long sleeves and many colors. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father loved him more than he loved them, they hated their brother and could not speak to him politely. One time, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him even more. Joseph said, "Listen to the dream I had. We were in the field tying bundles of wheat together. My bundle stood up, and your bundles of wheat gathered around it and bowed down to it." His brothers said, "Do you really think you'll be king over us? Do you truly think you will rule over us?" His brothers hated him even more because of his dreams and what he had said. Then Joseph had another dream, and he told his brothers about it also. Maybe not the wisest thing. He said, "Listen, I had another dream. I saw the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me." Joseph also told his father about this dream, but his father scolded him, saying, "What kind of dream is this? Do you really believe that your mother, your brothers, and I will bow down to you?" Joseph's brothers were jealous of him, but his father thought about what all these things could mean. One day, Joseph's brothers went to Shechem to graze their father's flocks. Jacob said to Joseph, "Go to Shechem where your brothers are grazing the flocks." Joseph answered, "Okay, I'll go." His father said, "Go and see if your brothers and the flocks are all right. Then come back and tell me." So Joseph's father sent him from the valley of Hebron to Shechem to check on his brothers. When Joseph came to Shechem, a man found him wandering in a field and asked him, "What are you looking for?" Joseph answered, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?" The man said, "They've already gone. I heard them say that they were going to Dothan." So Joseph went to look for his brothers and found them in Dothan, just like the man said. Joseph's brothers saw him coming from far away. Before he reached them, they made a plan to kill him. They said to each other, "Here comes that dreamer. Let's kill him and throw his body into one of the wells. We can tell our father that a wild animal killed him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben heard their plan and saved Joseph, saying, "Let's not kill him. Don't spill any blood. Throw him into this well here in the desert, but don't hurt him." Reuben planned to save Joseph later and send him back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they pulled off his robe and threw him into the well. It was empty, and there was no water in it. While Joseph was in the well, the brothers sat down to eat. When they looked up, they saw a group of Ishmaelites traveling from Gilead to Egypt. Their camels were carrying spices, balm, and myrrh. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and hide his death? Let's sell him to these Ishmaelites. Then we'll not be guilty of killing our own brother. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And the other brothers agreed. So when the Midianite traders came by, the brothers took Joseph out of the well and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 8 ounces of silver, and the Ishmaelites took him to Egypt. When Reuben came back to the well and Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes to show he was upset. Then he went back to his brothers and said, "The boy's not there. What shall I do?" The brothers killed a goat and dipped Joseph's robe in the blood. Then they brought the long-sleeved robe to their father and said, "We found this robe. Look it over carefully and see if it's your son's robe." Jacob looked it over and said, "It is my son's robe. Some savage animal has eaten him. My son Joseph has been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and put on rough cloth to show that he was upset. And he continued to be sad about his son for a very long time. All of his sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he could not be comforted. He said, "I will be sad about my son until the day I die." So Jacob cried for his son Joseph. Meanwhile, the Midianites had brought Joseph and taken him to Egypt. There they had sold him to Potiphar, an officer to the king of Egypt and captain of the palace guard. We will begin our discussion questions now. And for the safety and privacy, please don't mention names of people you're talking about. Only use boy, girl, or person. If you feel you have to talk privately to a teacher afterwards, then please let one of us know. Thanks.